All right, thank you once again for joining us today at Eastern News 24. I see nearby can konye chiri yazelo. All right, update Ajimakia we beno bossing ketabo. This news, but according to the Biafran activists, what they are, as you quote, is Donald Trump threat violate global order? What do you think? All right, this update Ajimakia will be. Please pay attention to the clip before you say something. Get. So Oziabo, according to the global media analysis, what they are bossing on the matters of Donald Trump threatening to send U.S. Army to invade Nigeria. Plus, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, Ọhamadike Ndị Igbo, prophecy validated. Hear the news in details.
U.S. President Donald Trump, as we welcome you back to this Live, the Sunday talk show, U.S. President Donald Trump says he has asked the Defense Department to prepare for a possible fast military action in Nigeria if the West African nation fails to crack down on the killing of Christians. Trump said in a post on Truth Social that U.S. government will also immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation and top oil producer, if the United States sends in military forces. It will go in, he says, guns are blazing to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing horrible atrocities, Trump wrote, without providing any evidence of the specifics about the treatment of Christians in Nigeria. In the meantime, here is one of Nigeria's leading religious leaders, Pastor Wale Adefarasin, the General Overseer of the Guardian Light Assembly, with headquarters here in Lagos, with an interesting take on the issue of genocide against Christians in Nigeria.
For the over 40 years that I have been a Christian, there have been killings in southern Kaduna, killings on the plateau. There have been riots. Sometimes, I think it was in France, an image of Prophet Muhammad was defaced. Who remembers that? And as a result of that, there were killings of Christians in Nigeria. And so it's nothing new. It doesn't amount to genocide. The way the West are talking about it, it's as if a Christian steps on the street, his head will be blown off. And I'm trying to understand this sudden love for Christians. Is it because we now have one of the largest refineries in the world and no longer have to ship raw materials abroad and bring the finished products? Or is it because of the 21st century minerals that we now have in our earth that are used to generate nuclear power for electric vehicles? Are those the reasons that our friends are threatening to invade our country to defend and protect Nigerian Christians? Selah.
In another development, a wave of reshufflements and retirements is set to hit Nigeria's armed services after last week's change of service chiefs by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. No fewer than 60 senior officers, including generals who are currently above the newly selected service chiefs in hierarchy, are expected to proceed on compulsory retirement in the coming days. Military tradition dictates that once new service chiefs are appointed, the officers senior to them must exit the system to preserve professionalism, discipline, and command structure. Officers of the Nigerian Defense Academy, NDA regular courses 38 and 39, and a few from course 40 are expected to be impacted by the directive. Security and policy expert Dr. Kabir Adamu joins me now to consider the security implications of the Trump military threat against Nigeria and the spate of reshuffling and retirement in Nigeria's armed forces. Good to have you on the program, Dr. Kabir Adamo, and thank you for always obliging us when we call on you.
My pleasure, Dr. Abati. Good evening.
Okay, let's start with the Trump threat. Nigeria to be attacked, guns are blazing. Nigeria now being declared a country of particular concern with regard to religious freedom and what is called the persecution of Christians. Many of us have said, look, this is not about Christians. All lives matter. Christian lives matter, Muslim lives also matter. But what do you think?
Yeah, so Dr. Abati, the thing is this is not unsurprising for anyone who is either a student of international politics or has been in the domain of international politics. During his first tenure, the same thing happened. He imposed, or rather categorized Nigeria under the country of particular concern. Of course, when he lost the election, it was reversed by the Democrats. So now that he's back on the saddle of leadership as POTUS, 9 months into his presidency, we're seeing a repetition of that cycle. So frankly, I'm not surprised. And then all the indicators that would have told us that is going to happen were there. As early as March this year, the US Congress did pass a resolution to that effect. In July, the United States Commission for Religious International Freedom, USCRIF, also released its report on Nigeria. And it was very clear in that report when it recommended for the categorization of Nigeria under the country of particular concern. Before then, we know that at least 6 congressional visits have taken place to Nigeria. Different senators, different parliamentarians from the US have visited Nigeria, and in most instances have gone to Benue, have gone to Plateau State. Yes, they will come back to Abuja, maybe sometimes go to Lagos and meet. But then, the fact that they are not going to Zamfara, they are not going to Katsina, will give you an indication of what kind of report they are going to give back. And of course, the US Embassy that also has a representation for USCRIF is also sharing its report. So we were not surprised. What is surprising, however, is this escalation to threaten to attack a sovereign state. This is completely against the rules-based system that we are used to, that the world has embraced. Another country cannot threaten, the sovereignty of another state over an allegation that it has not even allowed the other country to respond to. So clearly, there are other issues at play here. And one of the issues at play, Dr. Abati, is the domestic politics in the US. A lot of what is going on really is to align and strengthen and consolidate, his grassroots support, as it were, by mentioning things around, protecting Christianity across the world. That resonates very well with his local support base. Whether he would carry out that threat, we're not sure. The fact that he's carrying out that threat in a country like Venezuela, even though the issues are different, there it's about drug trafficking, and there is a direct correlation between the drug trafficking and the happenings within the United States. Here, it's religion, and everybody, just like you've indicated, and I'm very happy to hear Pastor Adefarasin also mentioning this. Other Christian clerics have also spoken up to say, no, there is no Christian genocide. Well, yes, there are attacks, and those attacks are affecting the two.
Dr. Adamo, there have been some conspiracy theories, namely that this is an indication that the United States government does not want the Tinubu government in power. 2, that, okay, these speculations about coup attempt, now that we have been told that 42 officers have been arrested, that perhaps this has a connection with the statement from President Trump. 3, that President Trump is also interested in Nigeria's mineral resources, and this is an attempt as part of his, conquest, plan to grab Nigerian resources. 4, that the northern Nigeria, the north of Nigeria, is not likely to just take this at surface value. Can you help us unpack some of these conspiracy theories?
And I'm very happy that you concluded by referring to them as conspiracy theories. Dr. Abati, statecraft is not run on conspiracy theories. Statecraft is run on intelligence, is run on platforms that have been established to run statecraft. At this stage, I don't think it's beneficial to us to discuss conspiracy theories. There are some glaring facts that are very obvious. Number one, why don't we have ambassadors? It's one of the consequences of where we are is the absence of ambassadors in our missions. Number two, how have we managed all the indicators that I listed earlier on from March this year, when this development surfaced in the Congress, to the various motions that have been moved or bills that have been submitted by different congressmen, to the visits that I mentioned by different congressmen to Nigeria, to the engagement at the U.S. Embassy. And I must also mention the release of the July dashboard by the National Human Rights Commission. How have we managed all of that, as a country? Did we take note of those indicators? Even now that if you ask me that our risk level should be at extreme, if another country is threatening to attack us, we should have elevated our risk level. But I haven't had anything in response to that from the government. And how do we mobilize? What do we do in response to that? Are we waiting at sitting ducks for that to happen? So point I'm making is the conspiracy theories are flying, and I can tell you a lot more than what you've listed in terms of conspiracy theories. But for now, what would be important is for statecraft to take the front burner, so that our responses are coordinated, and that we minimize this risk. At this stage, what is critical beyond anything, Dr. Abati, is to start de-risking, start de-escalating the situation. What do we do as a country? First, to insulate ourselves from the circumstances.
Dr. Adamu, how best do you think that the Nigerian government can treat this situation? We have been told that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is seeking an audience to meet with President Donald Trump. What is the best approach that you recommend? How do we treat the situation?
I am very supportive of a direct, conversation between the two leaders. It would usually, in diplomatic practice, that's probably one of the best and most assured ways of de-escalating tensions. But what would be the essence of the conversation? Is the conversation going to repeat the same things that I've had government officials repeating? If that is the case, then I doubt if the outcome of that conversation would be useful. I did publish an article on Business Day, and in that article, I presented a lot of pathways. I'll repeat some of them here. Number one is there are killings in Nigeria. Those killings affect both Muslims and Christians. So the government would need to admit that. The government also needs to admit its weaknesses in terms of its ability to reduce those or prevent those killings. It's reducing the killings. As you know, I run a company, and my database shows that the killings are reducing. So the government will also need to present that. Number three, the government needs to put together the facts and forget this kind of responses that are not based on facts. By that, I mean show in clear terms the perpetrators of the act, show in clear terms what it is doing to go after these perpetrators. And the government is doing a lot, like I said. In the last few months, it has killed several of these actors. It has destroyed their supply bases. It has destroyed their camps. So put that forward. Number four, engage. Beyond anything, we need to strengthen our national cohesion. At this stage, the kind of conversation I'm seeing between Muslims and Christian communities, the government needs to step in to bring the two sides together. If possible, Dr. Abati, I would want a situation where we see a joint statement by the Christian Association of Nigeria and the Supreme Council of Islamic Affairs on this matter, jointly speaking together as one and presenting the facts. And there is so much to present so that the world understands that we're united on this matter. Yes, we condemn the killings, and as a country, we want the killings to end. What we would require from the United States is support to the government to end the killings and not to, attempt to divide us and create a risk element that may even lead to state collapse.
Dr. Kabi Adam, two questions. I would like you to address them very quickly because we're running out of time. You are a Muslim. Do you feel threatened, persecuted in Nigeria under the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu? And two, do you think that the United States has the right? No, the second part. They are very short questions. Do you think that the United States has the right to dictate to us, Nigeria, Africa's most populous country, how we run our affairs in this country as a sovereign country? Don't you think that Trump is overreaching his authority, acting ultra vires?
The first part of your question, I think, like you, probably in the privileged category in Abuja, and currently at your studio, I feel safe. But the same question, and I hate to use this example, if you ask the family of General Alkali, who was killed in Plateau State simply because he's a Muslim and simply because of his identity, and he's a retired general, he was targeted and he was killed. If you also go to Zamfara, the various communities that are being targeted and killed, and if you ask them, the answer they will tell you is they don't feel safe. They are victims. They are being targeted because of their identity. Even though we're Muslims, we represent different profiles. So depending on the profile and your vulnerability, which is also determined by where you live and the kind of activities that you engage in, your risk level can change. In this instance, mine is different. But if I was traveling, for instance, and I'll be traveling through Plateau State and probably through Bauchi, my risk level will increase significantly, especially if it's by route. So yes, depending on where and when and what, the answer may be yes. In other instances, no. The second part of your question, we're a sovereign state, but Trump is what he is. Like I mentioned in my opening remarks, he's jettisoning the rule-based system that we're used to. That the world has embraced under multilateralism and bilateralism. He's jettisoned it in so many ways. And it's very clear that perhaps after him, we may not go back to what the world used to be. He's changed virtually everything. Here in Africa, in Europe, of course, the developments in the Middle East indicate that. So point I made earlier on, I'll repeat it, which is that we should have forecasted this as part of our intelligence estimate, which, by the way, I don't think we even do any longer. We should have forecasted that with the coming back of Trump, things like this would happen. And then would have started putting in place measures to prevent them or at least to mitigate them. Okay. We didn't do that. It's not too late, provided some pathways, some measures that we can take.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kabiru Adamu, for helping us to dissect some of these issues that we were talking about the Trump threat and also about the alleged Christian persecution in Nigeria. Thank you very much for
joining. Edaluli ne nkunu siwe na nunum obosi nketa na Eastern News 24. Beba isiwere weturu nyabu nnukwu ozi gbasata maka ya bife na-emenu. Ka efi were ikwu gbasata maka ya bife ndị a wetara n'ụbọchị nketa n'iru akwụkwọ.